World War II dominates the lives of everyone in America in 1943. This second full year of total war will see Americans fighting on 3 continents with no end in sight to the awful conflict. And yet in all the theaters of war, the encouraged Allied troops seem to keep slowly pressing forward, the forces of the Axis falling back inch by inch. In the Pacific, 1943 will see determined U.S. forces take Guadalcanal, advance in the Gilbert Islands, and retake the Aleutian Islands off Alaska. The Chinese will stop the Japanese advance in Asia and then add their support to an Allied invasion of Burma. The Allied African invasion the year before will reach its successful conclusion in 1943 with the complete collapse and surrender of Germany's Africa Corps. And the freeing of Europe from its Nazi captors will begin in 1943 with the invasion of Sicily and then Italy. This and much more is the pivotal year, 1943. Let's watch.
Goodbye, Mama, I'm off to Yokohama for the red, white, and blue, my country and you. Goodbye, Mama, I'm off to Yokohama just to teach all those Japs the Yanks are no saps. A million fighting sons of Uncle Sam, if you please, will soon have all those Japs right down on their Japanese. So goodbye, Mama, I'm off to Yokohama for my country, my flag, and you.
Say goodbye to Mama, you're off to Yokohama, so be brave and be strong. You won't be gone long. Say bye-bye, Mama, the land of Yama Yama, until April, I guess, will be your address.
United States Army School in flexible gunnery, sharpshooters learn to use aerial machine guns, training their fire upon small discs hurled by a machine into the air. From the gun turret of a model bomber, they shoot from every position. Trying to hit the tiny, moving targets is the best training possible. When they pass this test, they're real flying sharpshooters. Graduate of such a school is a man known to cinema fans the world over, Clark Gable. Refusing a higher rank, he volunteered as a private and worked his way up. Now he's awarded the silver wings of an aerial gunner, a first lieutenant in the Army Air Force. Clark Gable, movie star, playing his greatest role. Manning a .50 caliber gun, he will soon be in action against the enemy. United States bombers take off from bases in the Arctic to blast the remaining Japanese on Kiska Island in the Aleutians. Over the enemy base, tons of huge projectiles drift lazily to Earth, guided to their mark by the famous American bomb sight. When the big eggs land, they explode like clouds, and one more Jap base is wiped out. Somewhere in China, another American Air Force under General Chennault maps a raid on Japanese-held Hong Kong. Fighter planes escort the bombers as the squadron flies high over Asia. Hong Kong, and thereafter the Kowloon Naval Base. The Chinese cameraman who made these pictures knows it well. Hong Kong is his native city. Now he returns to help rid it of the Japs. Back to their base in China, safe and sound. American pilots get a warm welcome. They've blasted the Japs from Hong Kong to Kiska. In the United States Capitol at Washington, the new American Congress, chosen and elected by the people of every state, assembles to hear President Roosevelt bring a message of hope and courage to free men everywhere.
The Axis powers knew that they must win the war in 1942, or eventually lose everything. I do not need to tell you that our enemies did not win the war in 1942. But as we face that continuing task, we may know that the state of this nation is good. The heart of this nation is sound. The spirit of this nation is strong. The faith of this nation is eternal.
Sentries are playing an important role in helping Coast Guardsmen patrol America's thousands of miles of shoreline. A full-dress review marks the departure of the newest regiment of canine recruits assigned to active duty. Mounted and afoot, the Coast Guard keeps close watch over all beaches on the Atlantic and the Pacific.
We'd been where it was hot, plenty hot. By the time we'd finished tossing our stuff, we'd put our own personal brand on part of the Jap Navy and Air Force, and we'd taken a few slugs doing it. So here we were in dry dock getting a patch job. There were workers all over the deck. What they weren't fixing, we were polishing up for our next session with the boys from Tokyo. While all this is going on, word is passed to the Hollywood Victory Committee that a damaged flat top is home for repairs. So up from the film town comes a double load of names that give us a show on the spot. Danny Kaye, Dick Powell, Dale Evans, Yvonne DiCarlo, and a flock of others. For most of them, this was their first time on a flat top, and they were like a small-town gang taking their first look at the big city. The commander shows them around, including a gander at our scoreboard that proved that we hadn't been out trolling for barracuda. Then below on the hangar deck, while the flight deck was still crawling with welders, riveters, and repairmen, we got a welcome home show that did more for us than a double dose of vitamins. Here's some samples of what went on.
I have a song that I used to do in a show called Let's Face It a couple of months ago, and it's called Melody in 4Ed. And in this particular song, it's the story of a selectee from the time he gets his questionnaire and his physical examination and is assigned to a class. Give me now, pleasure. I will sing, hey, young pup, your number's up. Hop-de-doo-doo-doo-doo-lady. Get your doodle-beat the sound, get your doodle-beat the sound, give him going, get your say, really get your game. The mailman, get your doodle-beat the sound, give him going, get your say, really get your game. Hello to the place, and old questionnaire, give him going, get your say, really get your game. Hello to the place, get your doodle-beat the sound, give him going, get your say, really get your game. Hello to the place, get your doodle-beat the sound, give him going, get your say, really get your game. Hello to the place, and don't report to doctor, get your doodle-beat the say, feel how you doc, hello to the place, and get your doodle-beat the sound, give him going, get your say, we got a a fine specimen. Oh, no, to get you to be for say, we didn't go on to get to say, we'll get the game flat, we get you to be for someone, get the fellow, get the say, we'll get the game hard, to get him going to get for say, we'll get the game hold to play, daddy boy, to get him going to get to say, we'll get the game hung up to the plane, saying, get you them, get you them, get you them, get you them, one day.
Well, we're shipshape again and back on duty, but wherever we go and whatever happens, that victory committee sure gave us something to talk about besides breakfast in bed. Yes, sir, something nice to remember.
An Allied convoy nearing the coast of North Africa. Desperately, the Luftwaffe tries to stop fresh troops and equipment from reaching United Nations forces closing in on Rommel. But the convoy comes through, and more like them, bringing food, ammunition, supplies, troops from England and the United States in a never-ending stream. Attacked by night, and still Allied guns blaze defiance. The wounded come ashore as the Nazi Air Force makes its last attempt to dive-bomb ships waiting to unload. And again, the Luftwaffe is driven off. On the Tunisian front, British engineers render harmless landmines left to cover the German retreat. From the south, the British drive is on in force as Americans push through the central sector. The wreckage of a shattered army lies strewn across the desert. In Africa, the Nazis' days are numbered. The doors of America's great universities swing open to the Army. At Yale University, one of the biggest and oldest, 3,000 officer cadets come to complete their training for the Army Air Force. Today, America's halls of learning resound to the tread of marching feet. Young men are turning from the studies of the liberal arts to become students of war. Army teachers replace headmasters in cap and gown. Machine guns have no conscience, says the writing on the blackboard. Words these future lieutenants may well remember. The huge dining hall of Yale University now turned into a super mess hall for the Army. No less eager to do their bit, American college women adopt the same physical training program the Army prescribes for its men. For more rigid exercise and bodybuilding, they practice on a snow-covered obstacle course. Purely recreational sports are discouraged while the country is at war. Their job is to gain strength and health for the duties they will be called on to perform. Americans, American Indians, show their true patriots when a troop train pauses here on its way through the far west. They bring baskets of home-cooked foodstuffs for the men in uniform. They're proud of their honor roll. 700 Indian boys from one small county are serving with America's armed forces. In their workshops, Navajo women famous for their handicraft, make gifts and games for Red Cross packages. From this primitive home, a Navajo chief has sent 3 sons to the Army, American Indians loyal to their country. The air transport of tomorrow becomes the reality of today. The Constellation, America's newest land-based cargo plane, is ready for her first flight. Beneath her wings, a P-38 fighter plane looks like a toy miniature. Built to fly at 35,000 feet in the stratosphere, the big ship is said to be faster than a Jap Zero fighter plane. Four powerful engines lift the Sky Giant aloft. A plane that can cross the American continent or the Atlantic Ocean in 8 hours with a full load. Forerunner of a mighty fleet. On the Pacific coast, a new steel mill is completed at the Kaiser shipyard. Mr. Kaiser is the man who builds 10,000-ton Liberty ships in 4 days. The giant blast furnace begins to operate for the first time. No longer will they have to transport materials all the way from the big eastern steel mills. Now they'll make steel plates for steel ships right on the spot. A flying fortress arrives in New Guinea, bringing General Douglas MacArthur. The United Nations leader in the South Pacific is welcomed by the commanding officer of an American air base. Riding over roads that were literally hacked from the jungle, General MacArthur drives to the front. Inland, he sees friendly native carriers, protected by Australian troops, keeping open supply lines, bringing food, oil, and ammunition for Allied fighters driving against Japanese positions on New Guinea. At an advanced air base, the general meets some of the flyers who are constantly harassing enemy shipping. Even now, a giant B-24 is taking aboard a load of bombs as word reaches the base that a Japanese cargo ship is steaming off the coast. The crew is anxious to be off. Target sighted. Machine gunners ready. The big bomber roars down and rakes the ship from stem to stern. The second time over, bombs are on their mark, and the freighter is crippled by the explosions. Now, bound for home, the crew flashes the message, mission accomplished. In America, patriotic citizens are giving their blood to save the lives of their soldiers and sailors. 500,000 pints have been donated, and the Red Cross Blood Bank is accepting voluntary contributions at the rate of $2 million a year. This young gunner's mate, whose own life was saved by 8 transfusions, insisted on repaying the bank for a part of the lifeblood he borrowed. Here is real patriotism, his life and his blood for his country. Women workers of Canada hold down the jobs of their men who have been called to war. Here in the world's largest munitions plant, 18,000 French-Canadian women are breaking all records in the manufacture of ammunition. turn out bullets by the millions. Bullets for rifles, automatics, and machine guns. The factory operates its own kitchens, employs experienced housewives to help prepare nourishing home-cooked food. In the lunchroom, 1,500 girls are fed in 15 minutes. Back to work, where artillery shells up to 18-pounders are checked before shipment. And every day they test the quality of their work with point-blank fire on the proving grounds. American motorcycle dispatch riders train on courses just as difficult as they will find soon in action in Africa, in Alaska, in the South Pacific, or on the continent of Europe. For following these tests, they're off to battlefronts around the world.
It was a bright sunny day, with the air fresh and clean. Not a rumor was stirring, except in the latrine.
Hiya, Snafu. What's new?
Oh, nothing much. Nice day.
Nice day for a bombing.
Yeah, nice bombing weather. Bombing weather. Bombing weather.
Sounds harmless enough. Innocent stuff. But let's take a look in and find out what's cooking.
Bombing weather. Bombing weather. Bombing weather. Bombing weather. Bombing weather.
Just between you and me, pal, I hear we're in for a bombing.
The hot air is blowing. A rumor is growing.
They're gonna bomb us. They're gonna bomb us. Hear about the bombing. Hear about the bombing. They bombed us. Did you hear about the terrible bombing last night? Well, I heard it on good authority. That was harmless.
Balloon juice. It's phony, but it makes nice baloney. That's right. Exaggerate it. Stretch it. Multiply it. Now shoot off your face. And baloney is flying all over the place.
In Germany. Worst air raid of the war. Yeah. They blasted hell out of Brooklyn Bridge. Coney Island was wiped out. What's the matter with our planes? They popped them off like kites. 10 parachute troops landed right on the White House lawn. The Florida coast is lousy with invasion barges. Just a minute, Bud. Did you know that we have nothing to fight with? That our shells are all duds? And furthermore, the tops are in California. Wait until you see their new secret weapon. This may surprise you, but they're attacking this very camp. The Russians have surrendered. The British are quitting. The
The heroic defense of Stalingrad. The Soviet army turning the Nazi six-month assault into the most ghastly military disaster in German history. Hands held high, the beaten Nazis pour from house after house in abject surrender. Hitler's generals give up too, 24, including a field marshal. Here is Lieutenant General von Daniel, commander of the veteran 376th Division. Biggest catch of all, Field Marshal Friedrich von Paulus, Commander-in-Chief of all Axis armies at Stalingrad. Taken to headquarters of General Shumilov for questioning, von Paulus has much to answer for. He is the man who ordered the extermination of every civilian in Stalingrad. Calmly, quietly, General Shumilov reviews von Paulus' record. This is the von Paulus who, 2 months before, threatened the families of his own soldiers with death if one man should surrender. Berlin claimed he was captured only because he was gravely wounded. Actually, a young Red Army lieutenant found him hiding in the basement of a department store and brought him in without a struggle. These also gave up. Cold, starved, emaciated, defeated. Remnants of 22 beaten Nazi divisions. Now they plod toward a Russian prison. Proudly, the red flag flies again over the heroic city of Stalin, as endless lines of Nazi prisoners write the final chapter in the Battle of Stalingrad. Here, the might of the German Sixth Army met the courage of a people fighting for life and liberty. In America, Red Cross volunteers are busy packing boxes of food and medicines for Allied prisoners of war. Boxes containing vitamins, canned meat, coffee, cigarettes, matches, soap. This four-masted Portuguese bark, manned by a neutral crew, is one of several ships especially chartered for the voyage. Its safe passage guaranteed by all belligerent nations. A cargo of mercy for Allied soldiers and civilians wherever they are. Quebec, Canada, scene of the 6th historic meeting between President Roosevelt and Prime Minister Churchill. With them, the Dominion Premier and highest-ranking British and American staff officers. Admiral King and General Marshall, United States Army Chief of Staff. The United Nations war leaders have said their decisions would become known on the battlefields in future action against the Axis. Significant is the arrival of China's Foreign Secretary, Dr. T.V. Soong, who comes to the conference table representing Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek. Premier King welcomes the Chinese envoy to Canada. Even as Britain's Prime Minister and President Roosevelt warn the Axis to surrender now, the High Command announces new offensives on all fronts. Names Lord Louis Mountbatten at left, Supreme Allied Commander in Southeast Asia. Britain's Air Marshal Sir Charles Portal and American Air Chief General Henry Arnold at left declare that new day and night air assaults on Berlin are already in progress. Plans for bringing effective aid to China. Plans for decisive blows that will end the war in the East.
Although ladies rarely celebrate birthdays, these young ladies are justly proud on May 14, 1943, the first anniversary of the founding of the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. It hasn't been an easy year for the woman soldier. Despite efficient accomplishment of her duties, sideline quarterbacks have taken pot shots at her from every angle. At Army posts and camps throughout the United States, she's taken up not only the clerical or stenographic sort of duties she might have had in civilian life, but also she's been given new kinds of jobs requiring newly acquired skills. As a dispatcher for the Air Corps, a motor pool mechanic, a radio operator, efficiently handling the new and complicated GI equipment. She's freeing fighting men for the job of getting the war over with in a hurry. Now that the WAC enrollment quota has jumped from 25 to 150,000, and they're appearing all over in increasing numbers, a lot of guys have an honest curiosity. Forget the idle chatter. On the level, what is this WAC outfit? Every WAC is a volunteer. She enlists because she wants to. She's going in of her own free will to help win the war quickly. She's between 21 and 45 and must be an American citizen. First off, she gets a mental alertness test, and then an interview with an officer who determines her suitability for the Corps. Then, if she passes her physical, she's sworn in and sent to one of the 5 basic training centers where she undergoes 4 weeks of tough basic training. The complete GI routine from typhoid and tetanus shots through military courtesy right down to KP. All of it except for the manual of arms. Both physically and mentally, the training is strict and comprehensive. And whether it's chemical warfare drill or Red Cross life-saving practice, he's got a lot to learn and do in 1 month. Each company assigned to a post is self-sufficient with its own administrative officers, its own PX, its own mess with WAC cooks, and its own fatigue details. Here again, it's apparent that the WAC is determined to prove she's primarily a soldier, asking no special consideration or attention. Why not? Well, for one thing, most of the WACs have a brother or a boyfriend or a husband somewhere in the service. Like this auxiliary whose son is in ODs overseas. Yes, it's their war too. And as the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps begins its 2nd year of even greater and more expanded activity, America has reason to salute its women soldiers. All part of the same army, all working to win the same war, and all strictly GI.
Motion picture stars arrive in Washington to aid in the nation's campaign to sell war bonds. Riding in Army cars, the celebrities parade through the streets of the Capitol. Stars known to cinema fans all over the world. James Cagney, Lucille Ball, Fred Astaire, from atop the Washington Monument, we look down into an arena as thousands gather to cheer their favorites. Harpo Marx, Greer Garson, a parade of the Army's famous Jeeps, and the slogan is, "Back the Attack." Little Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland, all aiding the cause as the people of America invest in government bonds to win the war. Mrs. Franklin D. Roosevelt, in the field uniform of the American Red Cross, visits United States-based hospitals in the South Pacific. Popular wherever she goes, the President's wife is the subject of many a camera snapshot. tireless traveler, Mrs. Roosevelt's presence in Australia and New Zealand serves as a tonic and an inspiration to wounded American soldiers convalescing thousands of miles from home. The invasion of Nazi Europe through Italy by the American Fifth Army. Embarking for Salerno, just below Naples, the great amphibious force of Lieutenant General Mark Clark strikes for the north, even as Montgomery's Eighth Army rolls virtually unopposed through the south. At sunset, the huge convoy gets underway. Ships extending over 1,000 square miles of the Tyrrhenian Sea. General Clark, Fifth Army commander, and Vice Admiral Henry Hewitt commanding the fleet. Salerno, then Naples, is their objective. Already the British Eighth occupies the boot of Italy. As Montgomery plunges northward to join the Americans, Clark's forces strike for Salerno. Aboard ship, Ranger battalions study relief maps of the Italian coast. Every mountain and every valley is memorized as they steam for Salerno. During the night, the Fifth Army swarms ashore. In the faint light of dawn, under attack from German batteries emplaced in the hills, they dig in, establish their beachhead, and fight back. Sunrise, ships and supplies are still pouring in. Here, the biggest battle of the Mediterranean campaign develops around this initial thrust into metropolitan Italy. Pushed back time and again by superior Nazi forces, the Fighting Fifth is reinforced on schedule. Powerful armored units are brought up, and the Americans take the offensive. General Clark directs the attack from the beach itself. Meanwhile, the Italian fleet steams for Allied ports. General Eisenhower and Admiral Cunningham see the terms of surrender carried out to the letter. Many of the units tie up at once embattled Malta, the greatest naval victory of the war. At an East African port, wives and children of Italians captured in Ethiopia are sent home by the British. Italian ships, which brought out the colonists to found Mussolini's colonial empire, now take them back under the protection of the International Red Cross. For many of the youngsters, it will be their first view of the mother country. The United Nations have no war with women and children. Stranger to American universities is Madame Chiang Kai-shek. 26 years ago, as Mei Ling Sung, she was graduated from this same Wellesley campus with highest honors. Today, as the wife of China's great leader, she returns to meet undergraduates, American girls just like those with whom she attended school. Wellesley is proud and honored to welcome home its most distinguished graduate. The President's official home, American headquarters for leaders of the United Nations. Here Mr. Roosevelt lives, working long hours into the night. But when 7 o'clock comes, here is one chap who usually gets his supper direct from the hand of the President. His name is Falla, a 3-year-old Scottie, and the President's only pet. Falla is quite an accomplished dog, and equally fond of his master. A rare and interesting glimpse into the human qualities of the man who is President of the United States. Bombers of the 8th United States Air Force, taking off from airdromes in England, continue their round-the-clock devastation of war plants in Nazi Germany. In broad daylight, mighty squadrons roar across the North Sea. Over Hamburg, Germany's principal seaport and #1 war center, tons of bombs rain from the skies. Aerial photographs show the results. 7 square miles of Hamburg's war industries, docks, military installations, flattened and in ruins. Water mains, gas and electric plants destroyed. Hamburg, as a war center, a base for submarines, is virtually wiped off the map. Battling their way home, machine gunners blast enemy fighter planes from the skies. The return of the squadrons. Jagged, gaping holes in many a bomber testify to the intensity of the futile Nazi defense. Even as a wounded Yankee gunner is borne from his ship, RAF ground crews are making ready night raiders to continue the assault. Ready for launching, the new U.S. aircraft carrier Wasp. Among those invited to attend the ceremony are sons of naval officers who went down fighting with the old Wasp off Guadalcanal. And the sponsor almost misses the boat. Now it's official, and the 7th warship in the history of the United States to bear the name Wasp slides down the ways to join the fleet. America's newest flat top will soon be in action against the Axis. The famous American scout car, known among United Nations armies as the Jeep, is tested by Australians over the toughest proving ground. The little motor car has 4 speeds forward and sometimes has 4 wheels in the air, all at once. Here's where cameraman and driver have a narrow escape. Nobody hurt, but too close for comfort. American-made tanks found overseas. Embarkation port for armored juggernauts arriving from factories by the trainload. Here, inspectors check and prepare the tanks for the climate in which they'll be used. With adhesive tape, every opening is sealed against the moisture of an ocean crossing. Expert women drivers give the tanks a final test before running them onto long flat cars which transport them to ships waiting in the harbor. Tanks bound for fronts wherever United Nations forces are fighting. In American shipyards, every day new keels are being laid to swell the tide of United Nations shipping. Workers have long since voluntarily changed from peacetime jobs to war jobs. Plants operate in 3 shifts, hum at top speed into the night, around the clock, 24 hours a day. Red-hot rivets, burning through the blackest nights, write a message of defiance to the Axis. American workers are building the ships, and the ships are delivering the goods. America launches a nationwide campaign to raise funds for the Red Cross. Mrs. Roosevelt and Crown Princess Martha of Norway are among the notables appearing at the New York Madison Square Garden to aid the cause. The huge throng is treated to patriotic entertainment by the world-famous music hall Rockettes. The port of Naples, blasted by the Nazis, is now in full operation for the United Nations. Vast war supplies from Britain and America are unloaded as the Fifth Army gathers momentum for the offensive. The former luxury liner Queen Mary steams into Sydney Harbor loaded with troops. Once the most palatial ship afloat, the Queen Mary has a thrilling war record. Whenever huge reinforcements are needed, the Queen Mary does the job. Faster than enemy submarines or surface raiders, the gallant vessel continues to play an important role in the war.
Back home, the kids still start planning for Christmas sometime around Thanksgiving. Maybe the delivery truck has something for them. Maybe not. War has made a difference in Christmas to the kids.
Don't worry, John. It's nothing for you. It might be. No, John, this is going to be a small Christmas. I looked through the closets last night, and there were only 2 packages. Here I am at a time like this. 4 brothers fighting against the Nazis.
War has made a difference in Christmas to a lot of fighting men. Men kept away from their families by the urgent business of war.
Morning condition report, Captain.
Very well, sir.
Cruiser report abroad on the port beam, sir. Very well. Take a bearing, Mr. Miller. Aye, sir.
But there was time enough and thoughtfulness enough for them to write a letter. Manager, Children's Department, R.H. Macy and Company, New York City, New York. Dear sir, enclosed is a check for $2,404.25, for which we ask you to give us the following service. 1, select a Christmas gift or gifts valued at approximately $3 for each of the 729 children listed in enclosures A and B. We are so far removed from home in both time and distance that we have little idea of what kind of gifts may be available this year. We shall therefore not limit you in choice. 2, wrap and mail your selections to the home address of the listed children. We are sending our order early in the hope that you will be able to get your selections in the mail before the Christmas rush starts. May we suggest that each package be marked, "Do not open before Christmas." 3, please enclose with each package a gift card reading as follows. For sons and daughters, Merry Christmas from your dad and the shipmates in the USS North Carolina. Please acknowledge this order at your earliest convenience. By that, we do not mean that you tell us what you selected for each child. The children will tell us that in due time and in their own inimitable manner. You will be adding greatly to the happiness of our children and to our own Christmas joy out here in one of the war zones. Very truly yours, E.P. Wubbins, Chaplain, U.S. Navy. A combat zone is a long way from home on any day in the year, but it's twice as far away from home on Christmas. Men with photographs in their wallets, sometimes of children they've never seen, photographs of their kid brothers and sisters, photographs of the people back home they've never forgotten. There wasn't time for these men to rackages or fill stockings, but there was time for them to see that a kid brother in Oregon got a baseball bat, that a daughter in Massachusetts got a doll. These are the men who wrote the letter, and this is their ship, the USS North Carolina.
Lucky Strike Green has gone to war. Yes, Lucky Strike Green has gone to war.
We're off to drive the Heights right off of the Heine. We're off to slap the Jap right off of the net.
We'll knock him on his axis right from here to Alabama. Oh, the son of a gun who picks on Uncle Sam.
We don't care if it's Tripoli or Sumatra. We don't care if it's Tokyo or Siam.
We'll fuck the sukiyaki out of any diagram. Oh, the son of a gun who picks on Uncle Sam.
Tell the Danes and Dutch and French and such, they are not forgotten men. Tell the cockeyed world our flag's unfurled. The planes are humming, the tanks are coming, the Yanks are in again.
We've got a wood kimono for the Mikado. We've got a mausoleum for Mussolini.
We'll pickle, sickle, Goober for the coroner's exam. Or we're out to farm our monogram on the son of a gun who picks on Uncle Sam.
These have been some of the highlights of the year 1943. President Roosevelt has set a tone of hope and faith for the year, and we've seen the first optimistic signs of the end of the Nazi terror. Japanese forces suffering devastating bombing raids from the Aleutians to Hong Kong, Nazis retreating in the African desert, Stalingrad recaptured by the Russians. In 1943, it seems we'd stopped the advance of the Axis war machine. 1944 will see victory become more certain for America and its allies.
Our boys are still fighting. Are you still saving used fat? It's urgently needed to help make battlefront and homefront supplies.
Presenting in person and in the spotlight, Sammy Kaye.
Thank you, and hello, everybody. This is Sammy Kaye. The men of Hollenberg Ordnance Motor Base asked the Victory Parade of Spotlight Band to send us out here. And we're going to use a song from our motion picture Iceland to tell you why we came. You can't say no to a soldier. Here's a bit of advice for all the girls from lovely Nancy Norman.
You can't say no to a soldier, a sailor, or a handsome Marine. No, you can't say no if he wants to dance. If he's gonna fight, he's got a right to romance. So get out your lipstick and powder. you